dog and a cat can live in the same house for years. Same food, same bed, same family. But they will never have babies together. Now here's the part that doesn't add up. A coyote and a wolf? They can have offspring. A lion and a tiger? Also possible. Even a grizzly bear and a polar bear, two animals that barely ever cross paths, have done it in the wild. So what's the actual rule here? If species aren't supposed to mix, why do some of them mix just fine while others are completely locked out? By the end of this video, you'll know exactly what a species boundary really is, and it's nothing like what most of us were taught in school. Let's start with the contradiction itself. Most of us grew up picturing species like separate boxes. Dogs in one box, cats in another, no crossover, ever. But if that were true, there'd be no such thing as a wolf-coyote hybrid, or a liger, or a bear that's part polar, part grizzly. And yet, those animals exist, are documented, and in some cases are even common. So the separate boxes idea can't be the full picture. There has to be something more specific going on. Something that explains why some species can cross that line, and others absolutely cannot. Now the question is, what actually decides that? Here's the idea that changes everything. Species aren't separated by a wall. They're separated by a filter, a series of checkpoints, stacked one after another. And an animal pair has to pass through every single checkpoint to produce offspring that can carry the line forward. Checkpoint 1. Do they even meet? Different habitats, different regions, different active times of day. Plenty of animals never get the chance. Checkpoint 2. Do they recognize each other as potential mates? Courtship signals, calls, and behavior have to line up. Checkpoint 3. Can fertilization actually happen on a biological level? Checkpoint 4. Can the embryo actually develop into a healthy, living animal? And checkpoint 5, the one people forget. Can that offspring grow up and reproduce on its own? Two species can pass 3 or 4 of these checkpoints and still get stopped cold at the last one. That's the real reason hybrid isn't one simple yes or no outcome. It's a spectrum of how far two species get through the filter. So here's the real question this raises. What determines how many of those checkpoints two species can actually clear? Mostly, it comes down to how long ago they branched off from a shared ancestor, though that's not a strict countdown timer. Some closely related species build strong barriers surprisingly fast. Some distantly related ones occasionally slip through under unusual conditions. Generally speaking, though, more time apart means more chances for barriers to stack up. Which brings us to the pair that fails almost every checkpoint there is. Dogs and cats split from a shared ancestor somewhere around 50 million years ago. In evolutionary terms, that's an enormous gap. Because of that, they don't just fail one checkpoint in the filter, they fail nearly all of them. Their chromosome structures don't line up, and their reproductive biology has diverged too far for fertilization to succeed. The short version: their evolutionary distance and reproductive biology have diverged so far that a viable hybrid isn't possible. Not because of one single missing piece, but because they fail the filter at almost every stage. But here's the problem: if evolutionary distance decides everything, then closely related species should hybridize easily and often. And in some cases, they do. This is where it gets interesting, because real hybrid animals are living around us right now, without any human involvement at all. Take the eastern coyote. In the 1800s and 1900s, wolves across eastern North America were hunted to near extinction. As their numbers collapsed, coyote populations expanded into that same territory, and interbreeding happened between coyotes, remaining wolves, and even domestic dogs over time. The result is a population that today carries a genetic mix of all three. A mix that varies from region to region, but one that's fertile and self-sustaining across generations. Then there's the animal nicknamed the pizzly bear. Part polar bear, part grizzly. It sounds like a headline about the Arctic falling apart. But here's the twist. When scientists traced the genetic ancestry of every wild hybrid bear discovered, all of them led back to one specific female polar bear who mated with 2 different male grizzlies. Not a chaotic wave of interbreeding sweeping the Arctic. One individual bear, doing her own thing, as grizzlies increasingly moved into polar bear territory. So the filter can fail in nature. But surviving isn't the finish line. The real test is whether that offspring can reproduce. And that's where things get much harder. Take the mule, a horse-donkey hybrid, bred by humans for thousands of years for its strength and endurance. A mule can be big, tough, and live a long, healthy life. But almost every mule, male or female, cannot have babies of its own. Here's why. When a mule's body tries to produce sperm or eggs, it needs to pair up matching chromosomes, like lining up puzzle pieces. A horse contributes 32 chromosomes. A donkey contributes 31. And the structure of those chromosomes doesn't align cleanly. The body's own quality control system detects the mismatch mid-process and shuts it down. And here's a detail that surprises a lot of people. It's not really about odd versus even chromosome numbers like the popular explanation goes. It's about whether the structure lines up. There's actually a different horse hybrid with an odd chromosome count that reproduces completely normally, because in that case, the structure still matches well enough for the pairing to succeed. So sterility isn't a random punishment for being a hybrid. It's what happens when checkpoint 5, reproduction, fails even though every earlier checkpoint succeeded. But if sterility is basically the rule for hybrids like this, how did anyone ever discover an exception? Rare but real. Scientists have documented and genetically confirmed cases of female mules giving birth. The leading explanation is that during egg formation, something breaks the usual pairing rules. The donkey side of the genetic set gets left out of the egg, so what gets passed on leans almost entirely horse. It's not a clean, fully understood mechanism yet, but it shows that even biology's strictest seeming rules have documented exceptions. And if a hybrid can occasionally slip past the fertility checkpoint, that opens up a much bigger question. Can genes from one species actually move into another species permanently? Here's where the story ties together. North American wolves that have black fur carry a genetic variant that's strongly linked to ancient interbreeding with early domestic dogs, going back thousands of years. A gene crossed the species boundary, survived, and became part of the wolf population, without wolves and dogs ever merging into one species. That's the deepest version of what a leaky filter actually means. It's not just about two individual animals producing one hybrid. Occasionally, a single gene slips through and sticks around for good. So here's the real answer to the question in the title. Species aren't separated by some absolute, unbreakable rule. They're separated by a stack of reproductive barriers built up slowly over huge stretches of evolutionary time. Most of the time, that stack holds completely like it does with dogs and cats. But every checkpoint in that stack is still just biology, not magic, and every so often, under the right conditions, one of them cracks. That's not evolution breaking its own rules. That's evolution still happening quietly right now in real wild populations. If this changed how you think about what a species actually is, let me know in the comments. Which hybrid animal in this video surprised you the most?